Before Noah, before the flood, before everything went wrong, 200 beings descended from the sky onto Mount Hermon. They made a pact, they swore an oath, and what they did next would corrupt the entire human race. Divine beings mating with human women, hybrid giants enslaving humanity, a world so corrupted that total destruction was the only solution. This is Genesis chapter 6, and it's far stranger than anything you heard in Sunday school. And here's what they don't teach you in Sunday school. The Jewish teachers who originally wrote and preserved this text, they understood this story to be something completely different than what modern theology suggests. To them, the flood wasn't just about human sin. Read the text. The wickedness explodes after these beings arrived. After they corrupt humanity, after their hybrid children start dominating Earth. The earliest interpreters saw this as a cleansing of something that corrupted humanity from an external source. In that interpretation, it's still in the text. Let's take a look at what Genesis 6 actually says. Genesis 6 verse 1 through 4. You can read it yourself. The sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Now, sons of God in Hebrew is Benehah Elohim, and everywhere else in the Old Testament, Job, Psalms, Daniel, that phrase means divine beings, heavenly council members, not humans, not metaphors, beings. The Book of Enoch, found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, quoted in the New Testament Book of Jude, still canonical in Ethiopian Christianity today, expands on this story. It names them 200 watchers, led by Samyaza and Azazel, descended on Mount Hermon, which literally means mountain of the oath. They swore a pact. We do this together. We share the blame. The Book of Enoch isn't in most Bibles today, but here's the thing. It was widely read by ancient Jews. It shaped how they understood Genesis 6. And Mount Hermon, it's a real place on the border of Israel, Syria, and Lebanon. There are ancient temples at the summit, carvings about the Watchers. The story isn't hiding, we just stopped reading what the ancients wrote about it. But the Watchers didn't just come for wives, they came with knowledge. Enoch chapter 8 gives us the full list. Azazel taught metalworking, swords, shields, armor, the weapons of war. Samjaza taught enchantments and root cutting, sorcery and medicine. Barakiel taught astrology, Kokobiel taught the constellations, Seriel taught the courses of the moon. This wasn't primitive campfire wisdom, this was advanced technology, warfare, chemistry, astronomy. And then this line, and this is Enoch, not Genesis. The whole earth was corrupted through the works taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. Now that's Enoch's interpretation, but catch what it's saying. The earliest Jews didn't attribute all of sin just to Adam and Eve and their failings, and human weakness. They chased the corruption to the beings who gave us power without the wisdom to use it. That's a very different story than what they tell in churches. So the Watchers mate with human women, and their offspring are different. The Nephilim. The word means fallen ones, or those who cause others to fall. In Numbers 13, the Israelite spies see them and say, "We seemed like grasshoppers compared to them." In Deuteronomy 3, King Og of Bashan had a bed 13 feet long, made of iron, because nothing else could hold him. These weren't just tall people, they were hybrids, Watcher DNA mixed with human DNA, and they were hungry. Enoch says they consumed everything humans produced. When that wasn't enough, they turned on humanity itself. Cannibalism, enslavement, total domination. Genesis 6:5 says, "Every intention of the thoughts of man's heart was only evil continually." But notice the timing. The verse comes after the Watchers descend, after the Nephilim are born, after the corruption is spread. The wickedness filling the earth wasn't from human nature. It was an infection, a corruption introduced from the outside, and it needed cleansing. Genesis 6:9 describes Noah with a curious word, tamim, usually translated blameless or righteous, but tamim can also mean complete, whole, or without defect. It's the same word used for sacrificial animals. physically unblemished, some scholars argue it hints at more than moral character. That Noah's line hadn't been touched by whatever the Watchers introduced. Now, that's interpretation. Not everyone agrees, but it raises a question that the text seems to be asking. Why Noah? Out of everyone on earth, why was his family the one preserved? Here's what we know for sure. Genesis links the flood directly to what happened with the sons of God and the Nephilim. The corruption described isn't just moral, it's described as pervasive, total, affecting all flesh. And Noah is set apart as someone uncorrupted. Whether that's spiritual, genetic, or both, the text lets you wrestle with it. But the ancient readers, they lean hard toward both. And that reframes everything else in the Old Testament. The conquest of Canaan, the Israelites are specifically told to wipe out the Anakim and the Rephaim, groups the Bible explicitly connects to the Nephilim tradition. How did the giants survive the flood anyway? The text doesn't say. Maybe a second incursion, maybe something in the bloodlines. The Bible leaves it a mystery. But Goliath? He's called a Rapah, a remnant of the giants. David versus Goliath wasn't just an underdog story, it was a continuation of a conflict that started before the flood. The Watchers gave humanity three things: weapons, sorcery, and forbidden knowledge. Look around. We have nuclear weapons that can end civilization in an afternoon. We have genetic engineering that can rewrite the human genome. We have artificial intelligence that we don't fully understand and can't fully control. Power without wisdom, technology without consciousness, knowledge without maturity. It's the Watcher pattern repeating. And here's the question that nobody's asking. If the first time this happened, the solution was to total destruction and a reset, what happens when you don't have an ark? But the story doesn't end with the flood, and it doesn't have to end with destruction, because scattered throughout history, certain humans figured out how to reconnect, not to Watcher knowledge, but to something deeper, the source itself. Moses on the mountain, Elijah in the cave, Jesus in the wilderness, Muhammad in the cave of Hira. They didn't seek power, they sought connection, and what they accessed changed everything. The Watchers gave knowledge without consciousness, and the result was catastrophe. The prophets sought consciousness without grasping for power, and the results were transformation. That's a choice in front of us right now, not just as a species, but as individuals. Power without connection leads to corruption. Connection without grasping leads to profits. Same humans, same potential, different choices. The frequency the prophets tuned into? That's still broadcasting. It never stopped. The question is whether we're ready to listen. If this made you think, hit subscribe. I'm going deeper on this. Until next time.